Alright, we're going to restore an old cleaver. This is back when tools were made, the last generations. This is, it's a good 1/4 of an inch thick blade. It's seen its share of hard times and sitting on a shelf apparently. Um, you know, bunch of rust. It's pretty well pitted. Half the handle, the other side, it's gone, so we'll replace it. We'll get rid of the aluminum and probably use oak. We've already started on the backside, just getting the loose scaly rust off. It's, like I said, it's pitted. You can see the pits in it, but I'm not too concerned with getting all that out. That'll give it some character. And I'm planning on doing a seasoning on it like you would for cast iron. So, we'll fill those voids and stuff in. But the first step was I just used a rotary sanding wheel on my drill. I went through and got the easy. The next part is we've got, it looks like somebody tried to cut through who knows what with it, but we'll go through and try to get all those nicks out of the cutting edge of the blade and get that straightened up, and we'll see where it goes from there. Alright, some of these nicks were quite a bit deeper than what I had first thought. And you still could file everything down from this side, flip the blade over, file from that side and keep going back and forth until you finally get them down. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the file itself, just run straight across the blade there and work all of those nicks and burrs out, and that'll leave me with a blunt edge, and then I'll just go from there, putting a new edge on it. Alright, we got all the nicks out for the most part. There's a couple of small ones in there. They'll come out with the final honing of the edge. As you can see, we've got that cutting edge about perfectly flat going across the blade. The easiest way that I found to get those nicks out was I left my file stationary, and then I would put the knife down on it and brace the file, of course, and then just run across the cutting teeth of the file, and it did a fine job of making that cutting edge flat again, and getting the nicks worn back to where we could put an edge on it and not have any places meeting. So I guess the next part is we'll throw this on the drill press and we'll drill out these rivets. Rivets came out super easy. It was just aluminum rivets, just like the handle. So got those out. I'll take the drill and scouring pad now and clean up this side. Alright, we got the handle off, both sides of it. Got all that scaly rust removed. I am going to take a wire brush and go over it real good. I know I said I wasn't concerned with removing the pits from it, but I do want to get in there and clean out any rust or whatever else may be buried down in them. So I'm going to take a wire brush real quick and just give all the surfaces of it a real good scrubbing. Alright, we gave it a good scrubbing. Tried to get what we could out of the pits and the pores. And that's actually all we can do out in the garage for right now. The next few steps we'll take care of in the kitchen. Right, next thing we're going to do is just give it a real good scrubbing. Hot water, soap, scrub brush, Brillo pad. Just get all the particulates and rust and dust and whatever else off of it. Alright, we got it cleaned up, ready for the next step. Basically, all we need to do is just let it dry really well. You can towel dry it, but I'd still let it sit out and dry. 15 minutes or so. Make sure all the moisture's off of it. I don't know how well this is going to work. This will be the first time I've ever tried this. I've done it a lot with cast iron, but never with regular steel. I don't know how this finish will turn out. But all I'm doing now is applying a small, or a thin coat rather, of olive oil all over the blade. We won't be doing the handle because I'll be epoxying an oak handle on there later, so we don't want anything to interfere with the handle installation, so that won't get any oil, but the blade will. Now the way it works with cast iron is, it's porous enough that it'll kind of grab hold of the oil. I don't know how this will do. Hopefully with the pitting on it, it will absorb some and be able to take it, and it'll do what we're wanting. But we'll have to wait and see for that. You just put a thin coat of oil on the sides. I'll get the spine too, and anywhere that the handle is not going to be, and then we're going to throw that into a 475 degree oven and kind of bake that oil onto the metal. And we may do 2-3 coats of that. The first time will probably be 20 minutes. That'll let the blade get up to temperature and the oil get up to temperature, and then we could reapply oil and put it back in every 5 minutes if need be to gradually build up a coat on that. Start with a pretty good hot oven, 450, 475. Get that up to temperature before you actually throw your pans or whatnot in there. Good and hot, and we're ready to put the skillet in. The cookie sheet is actually on the rack below the rack that we'll be using. It's just there so that if we have a bunch of oil drips and whatnot, it'll get caught on the sheet rather than going into the bottom of the oven. Open up the door and smoke's kind of coming off of them. Don't be alarmed. It's just the way it happens. I don't guess you're technically burning the oil on. You're kind of baking it on, but there is some smoke, and depending upon what type of oil you decide to use, it may be more and it may be less. But we're up to about 15 minutes in, so these are up to heat. So we'll pull them out and give them another coat. All right, we've had it in there for 15 minutes. It's probably pretty well up to temperature. And the first coat of oil is kind of evaporated and left a sheen. But the part where the pitting is, it's kind of hard to see, but it almost has the appearance of cast iron once it's seasoned. The rust kind of gives a black look. As far as the pitting goes, this may be a pretty decent finish, but it may be overall as well. I don't know yet, but we're going to give it another coat and 15 minutes and see how it looks then. We did a good 3 cycles on this. You can tell the difference between the handle and the blade, how much more shiny that is. A little bit darker, not a whole lot, but for right now, I think it turned out pretty well. We'll have to see how it wears and how it does after we get it finished up and clean it. That side even turned out a little bit better. That's the first I'd seen it, but that's one way of finishing it without having to try to completely strip it and get back down to the shiny metal. I think it'll have a good contrast with that, and then once we bevel out that cutting edge and hone it down, I think it'll look pretty nice. So we'll call this good enough with the seasoning of this blade, and we'll work on work on the handle next. Alright, for the handle, I'm using 1/4 inch thick white oak. I cut a piece off and I've got it pretty much squared away how I want it for the handle. So to ensure symmetry, I'll clamp that to my stock and cut it out and drill it out. That way I have 2 mirrored pieces so that the handle will be symmetrical. It's not quite perfect. The middle wasn't wide enough for this curvature to be filled in, so I'm not real sure what I'll do with that. I may just grind it down. I don't think it needs quite that much, you know, for holding capabilities, or I may figure out something else. We might inlay a little piece of a walnut or something in there to set it off, but so far that's how the handle is coming. We've got the 2 handle halves ready. I will mention on each handle, the section that is closest to the cutting edge of the blade, you can see I went ahead and put a bevel on that. If you don't want a really strong, pronounced shoulder transitioning from the handle to the blade, you'll need to you know, work that down. And since it's going to be right next to the blade, I figured it'd be easier to go ahead and just hit that with a grinder, knock that shoulder off prior to putting the handles in place. And the next step would just be to go ahead and put them in place, and then, you know, all the other edges, the squared corners and all that can be ground down without worrying about marring your blade. That's the only reason I went ahead and did that. For the handle, I'm going to pin it, as well as I want to use a 2-part epoxy. This is G-Flex. It's pretty good stuff, and you know, half and half. It's not a 5-minute epoxy. It takes 24 hours to cure, but you know, there's a lot of good quick epoxies that you could use other than this as well. Alright, for the pins in the handle, I actually decided just to make walnut dowels. Pretty simple to do. If you've already got your holes for the size of the pins in your handle, you know, you basically, all you have to do is kind of carve down a piece of wood till it's roughly that diameter, and then you know, take a hammer and gently drive that through, and it'll peel back the little bit of extra and leave you with a pretty good a dowel. And that's what I'm going to use for the pins on the handle. We mixed up a bit of epoxy and applied some to each side of the handle, sandwiched them in place, and then put some epoxy on our walnut pins, and then put them through. You know, I roughly flush cut them just with a hacksaw, so that we wouldn't have to deal with that later. But I'm going to throw a clamp on this, and we'll give it about 24 hours and let the epoxy totally cure before we start the final shaping of the handle. But we're almost there. We've got, you know, a little bit of the handle shaping, and then the finished edge, and we'll be about done. Alright, we got her clamped up. Like I said, they'll ship to tomorrow. I did decide down where the steel came up past the wood, I just took a couple pieces of the oak that I trimmed off here and epoxied those in place. I will put a piece of masking tape across those just to hold them until the epoxy cures, but I decided to fill it in with it, you know, just to help the handle blend together and look a little better. Right, we've got the handle in. Yeah, everything's cured up. Got the sharp edges and the little rough spots and whatnot. So what we're going to do is put it in a vise and take a belt sander and smooth all that down. I'm going to wrap the blade in leather. If you don't have leather, cardboard, thick cloth, anything like that will work. All you're doing is keeping the vise from marring up your blade that you've worked to get that nice look to. So we're just going to smooth that up and we'll be about done. Alright, a little bit of time with the belt sander, and then just a little bit of time with a piece of finer grit sandpaper just in my hand. We got all the sharp edges and everything off. There's a few little nicks and whatnot in places, but I'm not too concerned about that. Mainly just wanted a comfortable handle, and that's what we ended up with. Alright, we went through and did a linseed oil finish on it, on the handle. You can see it really makes those pins pop. I like the looks of it. I don't know if linseed's like technically a food grade finish for cooking type things, but yeah, this is for me, so I like the way it looks and I like the way it holds up, so that's what I use. Anyway, we're just going to test it out. When I think a big old cleaver, I think of chopping blocks, and when I think of chopping blocks, I think of chickens. So, alright, Caitlin, put it up there and let's give it a test. It works pretty good. Maybe we'll use it on something alive or something that used to be alive later. But right now, it does a fine job with carrots and lettuce.